It was exactly 7:10 in the morning. The air outside was slightly cold and a thin layer of fog had gathered on the window glass. Theo Warren was sitting at his small kitchen table with a cup of coffee in front of him that had already gone cold. The ticking of the old wall clock echoed through the room like time itself was reminding him that life was still moving forward no matter how heavy his heart felt. Theo Warren was not a rich man. He was not a big investor. He had no luxury car, no corner office in a tower, no cover page in a financial magazine. He was just an ordinary middle-class American who had worked hard for years. He had done long shifts, held exhausting jobs, saved slowly, and set aside the money he had carefully collected every month for retirement. For him, this was not just money. It was the sum of his life's work, his tiredness, his discipline, his sacrifices, and his future. Theo's dream was not big. He simply wanted to stop worrying about bills every morning after retirement. He wanted a life where medicine, rent, groceries, and the fear of tomorrow would not sit on his chest like a stone every single day.
He wanted a quiet life, a life with peace, not panic. And then, one day, he came across an option that looked almost perfect from the outside. Its name was Fortress Wealth Guaranteed Fund. Just hearing the name made one thing come to mind. Fortress, a strong, safe, protected place. Then wealth, money would grow. And guaranteed, that meant the risk was probably low, or maybe there was no risk at all. For someone like Theo, who had spent his entire life working for security, those words felt like a warm blanket. He thought maybe this was the place where his money could finally grow in peace. The website looked polished, the videos were smooth, the logos looked premium, the graphs were going up, and every line said the same thing: safe, stable, reliable, your future is protected. Theo thought maybe he had finally made the right decision. But many times, a story begins exactly where trust is the strongest. Theo did not tell anyone at first, not his wife, not his son, not even his old friend Martin. He wanted to understand this decision fully himself. He read the documents. Some things made sense, some did not. Terms like structured portfolio, capital preservation, predictable returns, and low volatility sounded calm, professional, and trustworthy to him.
He thought that maybe this is how the financial world speaks, a little complicated, a little formal, but safe. And that was the problem. When a person makes a decision while afraid, they rely less on facts and more on feelings. Theo was not reading the facts, he was reading his future anxiety. And anxiety is always the best customer for words that sound strong, calm, and trustworthy. Theo felt like he was not taking a risk. He felt like he was being smart. But sometimes the most dangerous path is the one that feels the safest. For the first few weeks, everything seemed normal. The account opened, the dashboard appeared, the balance looked stable. The numbers were not dramatic, no sudden ups and downs, no panic. Everything felt polished, controlled, and clean. Theo thought, yes, this is stability. He even told some of his friends that he had chosen a good plan. He was not bragging, he was just relieved, as if some weight had finally come off his shoulders. But in stories like this, cracks do not appear all at once.
First comes a tiny crack, then another, and by the time a person notices it, the whole structure is already shaking. Theo first felt something strange when a statement showed numbers that were a little different. The return was lower. Then came the explanation: market conditions, temporary adjustment, long-term strategy. Words like these often sound trustworthy, but sometimes they are only a way to put questions to sleep for a while. Theo told himself, every investment has some delay, maybe I'm overthinking. But a small voice inside him had already started waking up. The voice that comes when a person slowly realizes they have not just invested money, but trust. Then the support calls started. Theo called customer support. The voices were always polite. Sir, everything is under control. Sir, this is a temporary phase. Sir, your capital is protected. Protected. That word gave Theo a little relief, because at that moment he did not need an explanation, he needed reassurance, and that is one of the most important layers of this story.
The real strength of any polished financial product is not just in its returns. Its strength is also in its tone, how it speaks, how calm it sounds, how professional it sounds, how much it makes you feel like questioning it would be foolish. For middle-class people, professionalism often becomes the language of trust, and trust is a very precious thing, so precious that sometimes it becomes the doorway to the biggest losses. A few months later, one day Theo logged into his account. The screen loaded slowly. He looked at the balance and something felt off. He refreshed it again, then logged in again. Still the same. He thought maybe it was a server issue. He tried once more, then he called the support line. This time, the hold music felt longer, much longer, and when someone finally answered, the tone was no longer as smooth as before. It was more formal, more defensive. "Sir, we are experiencing operational changes." Operational changes. Theo heard those words and felt the ground shift beneath him. For a moment, he did not even know what to say. It felt like someone had very quietly pulled the floor out from under his feet. That night, he could not sleep. He sat at the kitchen table. The coffee was still cold. The street outside was silent. And inside his head, one question kept spinning again and again. If this was so safe, then why is this happening? The next day, he told his old friend Martin everything. Martin could already tell by Theo's face that something heavy had happened. Theo explained the name, the promises, the messages, and all the things that had sounded safe and guaranteed. Martin listened quietly. Then he simply asked, "Why did you do this alone?" It was a direct question, but the answer was not simple. Because Theo had not made this decision alone. He had his exhaustion with him, his fear, his retirement pressure, his desire for life to become a little easier, and also that very human instinct that feels relief when it hears the word safe. Martin looked through the documents. Some clauses were very broad, some language seemed intentionally vague, some promises were clear but not exact. That is where the real lesson begins. Not every safe-looking investment is truly safe. Sometimes the language of safety itself is the mask of risk. For Theo, the loss was not only financial, it was emotional. He had put in a part of his life savings. He believed he was protecting his future, but now the future felt even heavier. His biggest pain was not only that the money was gone, his biggest pain was that he could no longer trust his own judgment. A few weeks later, Theo changed. He started speaking less. At night, he would sometimes wake up and look through his savings folders. He would read the statements again. He would run the numbers again. And every time, the same emptiness came back. One evening, his wife asked softly, "Are we okay?" Theo did not give a big answer. He simply said, "We'll get through it." It was the same line he was saying to himself. But the truth was, he was not okay yet. He was just trying. That is what makes this story truly human. This is not a movie about heroes and villains. It is the story of a man who did not scream, did not run, did not panic. He simply trusted. And when trust lands in the wrong place, it becomes a very expensive mistake. If this story is seen only as a loss story, then the meaning is incomplete. Its real value is that it shows how many people invest not because of high returns, but because of a feeling of safety. And in the financial world, that safe feeling is one of the most seductive things of all. Why? Because money is tied to fear. Fear of losing, fear of missing out, fear of not having enough, fear of retirement, fear of bills, fear of looking foolish. When a product is polished around those fears, it can become dangerous. It does not look like a loud fraud. Sometimes it is a quiet temptation, and quiet temptation is the most dangerous kind because it does not make noise. It slowly eats trust. Tio's experience becomes a mirror for every viewer. If an investment looks too perfect, pause. If the language sounds impressive but is not clear, ask questions. If the risk is not being openly discussed, look more carefully. If you are putting money in because you are scared, do not understand it fully, or are trying to not get left behind, stop and recheck. A good investment does not give you only hope, it gives you clarity. And if a product is selling comfort before clarity, then caution is needed.
Theo's story did not end happily overnight. Nothing was magically fixed like in a movie. But one thing did change. He started learning again, slowly, without showmanship. He spoke to experts. He understood that not every shine is truth. He moved what money he had left into simpler and clearer options. And for the first time, he honestly told his son that he had made a mistake. And in that one honest moment, for the first time, he felt a little lighter, because the biggest battle with money is not always in the bank account. It is inside the mind. And when the mind accepts its mistake, recovery begins. The meaning of this story is very clear. The most dangerous investment is not always the one that looks loud. The most dangerous one is the one that makes you feel so safe that you stop asking questions. What Theo Warren lost was not only money, he lost certainty. He lost the illusion that polished words always mean protection. And what he learned is valuable for every viewer. Do not get excited just because a word says safe. First, look at the structure. Do not relax just because a word says guaranteed. First, understand the risk.
And if a product is forcing you to trust before you think, that is the moment to stop. Because money does not only fall in the market. Sometimes it sinks with a polished mask of trust. And when it sinks, the sound is very quiet. Just a person's silence, a cup of cold coffee, a broken hope, and one question that keeps echoing for a long time. How did what I thought was safe turn out to be so dangerous?